2014 municipal election candidate awareness forums are being brought to you in partnership with the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce, Algoma University, Shaw TV, and Local 2. My name is Dr. Trevor Cheer from Algoma University. I will be your moderator for this evening's 2014 municipal election candidate forum with our candidates in Ward 5. My role as moderator will be to run tonight's meeting and keep us on schedule. Our panelists and screeners are from the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce and Algoma University. They will be posing the questions to our candidates. Our panelists and screeners are Carter Vance and Eva Heiderman from Algoma University and Carol Martin from Local 2. Seating and speaking order for tonight's candidates was decided by a random draw, which was conducted with the candidates this evening prior to airing tonight's session. The format for this evening is to allow each candidate 2 minutes for opening remarks. Our panelists will be posing questions from the Chamber and its members, from Algoma University, and from the audience. All questions from the audience will be collected in advance. If you have a question for any of these candidates, please fill out the form you were handed at the door. Put up your hand and one of our volunteers will collect your question. Questions will be asked to candidates on a rotating basis. Please note that due to time constraints, not all questions will be posed. Each candidate will have the opportunity to answer all questions posed, and each will have 1 minute to respond to the question. Shelley Barrich, Chamber General Manager, will be our timekeeper for this session. For opening remarks, she will provide the candidates with a warning bell at the 1 minute and 50-second mark, and candidates will have 10 seconds to wrap up their comments. For the questions and closing remarks, a warning bell will be given at the 50-second mark, and candidates will have 10 seconds to wrap up their comments. Let us begin with opening statements. We'll begin with Mr. David Celetti.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Shaw TV and Local 2, Chamber of Commerce, Algoma University for this forum. Special thank you to all the people in Ward 5 that supported me from way back in 1985 to this very day. Some are here in this room and some are, and most of you are at home watching. And I really appreciate your support on then and now. The question I have for you today is, well, before I even start that question, actually you have to, I would say my name is Dave Celetti and I'm a Ward 5er all my life for 61 years. Born and raised on Moretta Street, 14 years on the PUC, back 85 to 99 until it was privatized, 7 years on City Council. Not to mention different committees I was on, such as Police Committee and Humane Society, Parks and Rec, etc. The question I have for you today is, and keep it in your mind all through this, is are we better off today than we were 4 years ago? That's the question. Keep that in your mind and think about that. And I think if you take your tax bills out, you might notice that the 43% increase or better, we're not really better off. Take your PUC bill out. Have a look at that for the last 4 years, and you'll see leaps and bounds on that as well. I say we aren't going in the direction that we'd like to see us go, and therefore I'm running here to try and correct that course and bring it back so it's affordable for everybody. We have people living at home that are in their 80s and 90s, and it's finding it harder and harder on fixed incomes to continue on living in their homes. I'll talk to you later on about other things as we go on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Frank Fata.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce, Algoma U, Local 2, and Shaw Cable for this opportunity to address Sault Ste. Marie, and in particular, the Ward 5 residents. I've been on council for 8 years. It's been my absolute honor to serve you, and for that I am humbly grateful. Buonasera tutti, alla casa. It's been a very exciting campaign so far this year. My wife, Pina, who's in the audience, and I have traveled the entire ward, and it's amazing how important it is when you meet face-to-face with your neighbors and hear what they have to say. Oh, by the way, my wife, Pina, is my campaign manager. She's also my right-hand person. The two of us are the entire campaign team. For that, I thank my lovely wife. I could not be doing this without her. Seriously, Pina. We have traveled the ward on foot, by car, and my good friend would probably be very happy to hear this, by bike. On Prentice Avenue, we met with Dorothy, who has a home-based business. On Adelaide Street, we met with Eugene, who has issues with trucking along the road to the number 1 gate. On Lennox, we met with Evelyn and Raymond, an older couple, probably, I think he's about 9 years old. They're dealing with issues with the Red Cross. On the north end, I dealt with Susan. She's got issues with public service. The owners of a very nice established motel over on Great Northern Road, Adam and Shelley, I met with them. These are the kind of things that councillors are expected to do. Meet face to face, not simply transfer emails to and from the person that has concerns and then pass them on to the respective department. This is the kind of personal service that I have given the residents of Ward 5, and this is the kind of service that I will give them in the next 4 years. These past 4 years have been especially satisfying and productive. We have had cooperation, respect, and responsible behavior that the residents of Ward 5 deserve.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. The final opening statement will be from Mr. Marchy Bruni.
Good evening. I would like to thank the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce, along with Local 2, Shaw TV, Algoma University, for hosting this forum. It has been an honor and a privilege to be your Ward 5 councillor these past 4 years. I truly believe that I have been dedicated and committed in working hard for the Ward 5 constituents. Being a Ward 5 resident for over 34 years, I understand how important it is for a councillor to listen to the constituents' concerns. Even more importantly than listening is taking action, and with many phone calls, emails, and personal visits, I have fulfilled these duties as a councillor. I strongly believe there's no better way than working together. I believe these past 4 years I have demonstrated this action by continuously communicating with city staff, engaging with other community partners, and of course collaborating with our mayor and city councillors. Also, it is highly important for both councillors of each ward to respect one another, and I am pleased to say that this past term, Ward 5 had 2 councillors that demonstrated teamwork. During my 4 years as a councillor, I have 100% attendance record for city council meetings and 100% voting record. I have responded to all my constituents' calls and emails in a timely manner. As a councillor, it is our responsibility to hold town hall meetings to allow taxpayers to voice their concerns. Previous to my term, this was not initiated. However, this term, I, along with my current co-councillor, held town hall meetings where great productivity was achieved. How can I continue to help you as a councillor? It's very simple. I will continue to respond to your comments and represent you at City Hall. Let me work with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. We will now move into the question and answer session, and I'll invite our panelists to ask our first question of the evening.
This question comes from the Chamber of Commerce. Where do you envision growth and development in your ward?
We'll begin with Mr. Celetti.
Well, growth and development is a pretty important issue here in Ward 5. We like to see more restaurant type thing, a little more on the, we're like an industrial area there, we're close to the steel plant, and if we have other companies come in, hopefully they'll set up shop around Ward 5 or in that area so we can develop and create work for people here and in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. Mr. Fata.
Could I have the question repeated, please?
Where do you envision growth and development in your ward?
That's a very good question. And there's been a lot of activity in Ward 5 in these past several years. Part of the development process involves good planning. We have a gentleman by the name of Don McConnell. He's our plan director. He is very expertise when it comes to this area of development. We have encouraged development in all aspects of our ward and, of course, our city. But the bottom line to a lot of things that have to happen is development takes place where the developer wants to go. This is one of the things that I think has to be paramount. We've had large developments in the Greenfield subdivision. It's been developing. A lot of young families, a lot of kids. It's just a fantastic situation that's happening there. There's more development going on up there. There's development that's been going on in sort of sparsely here and there, but the important thing here is you have to work with the developer, and we have to encourage development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. Mr. Bruni.
Thank you very much. Most of the development occurring presently is going north of Ward 5. Mr. Fata mentioned Greenfield. We have Crimson Ridge, which is a major expansion going on right now. Fourth line, you see more houses being built. But as Mr. Fata said, it is a process. Mr. McConnell, our planning director, a lot of our developers meet with him. But other development that can occur is Garson's Hill. It's for sale. There's lots of empty property there. I can see homes being built there once the land is purchased. We have several school areas that are closing or closed. St. John's, there possibility can be some type of development going there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. I'll now invite our panelists to ask the second question of the evening.
This question comes from Algoma University. Do you have a strategy to combat youth outmigration in our community?
Thank you. We'll begin with Mr. Fata.
Yeah, thank you very much. That is a very, very, very serious question. I talk to young people all the time. I've talked to them during my travels during the campaign. I stress to them that the people that are important to this city are our seniors, our youth, and of course the middle class are certainly vitally important in terms of carrying the tax burden for the city. But our youth are vitally important. Now, there's encouragement going on right now as far as post-secondary institutions. They're starting to teach the programs that are necessary. The kids, young people, can stay in Sault Ste. Marie. We got SR Steel, which has to start to really encourage trades to be hired. I mean, the young people have to be hired. It's something that we can't continue to bring back retired people to keep taking these jobs. And that, of course, includes retired teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. Mr. Bruni.
Thank you very much. Youth, jobs, that's the most important thing presently right now with our city. We need the city to work with post-secondary schools. We need Sioux College. I believe Sioux College should increase their apprenticeship program. We're short of tradespeople, electricians, plumbers, bricklayers, etc. If we can increase the trades, normally when they go to school here, they will find work here, and that's very, very important. We have the Youth Advisory Committee formed by the mayor. That's very, very important. We have Strive from the Chamber of Commerce. That's very important. We're getting the youth involved. It's very important that we listen to the youth, because if we listen to the youth now, they will be our voices for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. Mr. Celetti.
Thank you very much. Right now, as it stands, it has been a problem. Has been a problem for, I would say, probably going back from when I started getting on council. It was a youth out-migration. Education is the key. If we can educate our children and our youth in our institutions as we have them now, Sioux College, Algoma University, skilled trades, that's a big thing right now, like carpenters, electricians, plumbers, so on. At Sioux College, they did offer a lot of these courses, and hopefully they'll be either continuing some of them and putting new ones in, and have them working hand in hand with our steel mill, and we can tailor our youth for these jobs in our area, and hopefully they'll stay here, settle down, have family, and be productive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. I'll now invite our panelists to ask the third question of the evening.
This question comes from the audience. What do you think should be done about the flooding issues in your ward?
We'll begin with Mr. Bruni.
Thank you very much. Actually, this past fall, we had a town hall meeting. We gathered all the residents from the Elliott Road, Rossmore, Hill Street, Johnson, and we had a town hall meeting with Councillor Fata and myself. We sat down, we discussed the issues, and we had Commissioner Larry Girardi, we had Commissioner Dolcetti was there, and by having city staff there, they heard the problems. And when they heard the problems, they reacted. And what they did was they started cleaning out the ditches, cleaning out the catch basins. On the top of Rossmore Hill, they dug a long ditch to absorb the water, to make sure the water will go to the Fort Creek area. So I think the town hall meeting was excellent, it was productive, and the residents did receive answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. Mr. Celetti.
Thank you. Flooding is an issue in Ward 5. It's always been an issue in Ward 5. It's a swampy area to begin with, way back in the 50s. They put the underpass in, it flooded. Fort Creek came in, Davino Creek. They ran that right under Farewell Terrace actually is a similar, like an aquifer in itself that drains a lot of that water off. The CN did a lot of work there on the north end by the overpass at Highway 17, where there was a lot of blockage there in the past. The culvert had caved in. They replaced everything there. Water's flowing good there now. I noticed up in Adelaide Street, I walked up around that area, talked to the people, and there's been no drainage done up there. And they all have high water areas in their backyards and on their streets, and they're still talking about it now. I was just wondering if they went to any of those town hall meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. Mr. Fata.
Yeah, I will make reference to what Councillor Bruni said as far as the town hall meeting. We had a very good response there. We had somewhere in the area of 30 people. We dealt with some very important issues. Staff has to be responsible to show up at these meetings. They do show up. We've got issues in the Fort Creek area. The night of the flooding, I was out till 1 in the morning, literally clean drains because the water just seemed to be overflowing. These are issues that Public Works has been addressing. They will continue to address. The two councillors that will be representing this ward, I can assure you that they will be continuing to address these issues. Northridge Road, I was talking to Rocco just the other day. The issue has to be dealt with. That ditch in behind Northridge Road has to be addressed. Brunswick, Hampton Road, I was in that area just the other day. Ditches have to be maintained.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. I'll now invite our panelists to ask our fourth question of the evening.
This question comes from the Chamber of Commerce. There have been some discussions in the past about the restructuring of City Council. It has been proposed to do away with the ward system in Sault Ste. Marie. What are your views on this subject?
Thank you. We'll begin with Mr. Celetti.
I missed the line there. That,
Could you please repeat the question? Thank you very much.
Sorry about that.
There have been some discussions in the past about the restructuring of City Council. It has been proposed to do away with the ward system in Sault Ste. Marie. What are your views on this subject?
I really am not in favor of doing away with the ward system. I think the ward system it's working. It's working good. If it ain't broke, why fix it?
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. Mr. Fata.
Thank you. I went public on this very item several years ago. My proposal was to have 1 councillor per ward and 4 elected citywide. It seems like there's a disparity in the way the election process takes place. There's people that get 3,000 votes in one ward, turn out end up being third. Another one ends up with 1,200 votes, ends up in second. This was an issue that I tried to address. It didn't have much in the way of cooperation. That kind of results would result actually in a savings of about $200,000 per 4-year term. So there's obviously room for discussion, and I would be prepared to be at the table with that discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. Mr. Bruni.
Thank you. It's a very interesting question. Just being my first term as council, working full-time, I believe the present system is working well. Handling over 900 calls or emails in a 4-year term will keep a councillor very busy. And it's always good to have a second councillor there to help you, back you up to any calls, to refer, to ask for some expertise. So I think the 2 council per ward presently is working very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. Next, we'll hear question number 5 from the panel.
This question comes from the University of Algoma. What will you do to fight crime in the city and make sure that Sault Ste. Marie is a safe place to live?
We'll begin with Mr. Fata.
Thank you. This is another one of these issues that I personally take a very hands-on approach. I've already contacted the chief of police 5 times, and he's only been on the job for a few months. I find that I do get good results when I do have discussions with police services. I know that it's an issue that people get frustrated about. They say that they call the police and they don't show up until it's too late. There's issues right now with the downtown. We've set up the satellite office. I think I've talked to the gentleman there, the constable, 2 or 3 times already. They seem to be very excited about what is happening downtown with the way that the problems that existed are being addressed. It seems like we're making progress, but it's something that we just cannot just become complacent about, and it's something that we have to keep addressing.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. Mr. Bruni.
Thank you very much. I think we're on the right track. On Gore Street, we have the police satellite office. Personally, I would like to see the hours extended. Presently, the hours are basically day shift, and I'm sure crime occurs more in the evenings. We need a little bit more police presence. But, of course, we always look at the budget. How many more police officers can we hire? But we definitely need to improve it, and with the new police chief, I know that's one of his mandates is to reduce our crime rate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. Mr. Celetti.
Can I have that question one more time, please?
Certainly.
Thank you.
What will you do to fight crime in the city and make sure that Sault Ste. Marie is a safe place to live?
Well, when I get on council, or if I get on council, I'd certainly like to be on the police board. We do have a police station, and we have police officers here in Sault Ste. Marie that are hired through the taxpayer to fight crime. I personally can't fight crime, but I do support everything they do that criminal activities are deterred. Drugs, break-ins, beatings, stabbings. One of my friends just got stabbed in a parking lot there 2 days ago at Metro. So yeah, you're going to find that crime in every city that you go to, but I would certainly like to see our police force, which is actually improving and getting more people working as police officers. Yeah, they're doing a pretty good job fighting crime, but there's always more room to deter it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. Next, we'll hear question number 6 from our panel.
This question comes from the audience. All candidates claim that they are striving to reduce taxes. As a demonstration of leadership, would you consider freezing your honorariums?
We'll begin with Mr. Bruni.
Thank you very much. I have no problem freezing my honorarium. I think it shows leadership, it shows character, it shows what we need for the city. And if this has to be pushed to city staff, that's something that we can negotiate with the unions. To freeze our wages, I have no problem at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. Mr. Celetti.
As far as honorariums go, I don't think there's a person in this room or out in the audience that works for nothing. If anybody out there works for nothing, I'd say they're a fool. The whole idea here is we come out here and doing a job. It's a part-time job. I have a job of my own, but this is a part-time job. But for me, it's an education. The education I never had. And getting to work with the people in Ward 5 and in the city, it gives me a little higher education and understanding of what's going on. And I really love the people I meet, and I love doing what I do as a counselor. And if they pay me for it, there's a remuneration. But if that committee, that auditing committee they have, says your wages are froze or not there, you know what? I'll still do the job for you, 150%. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. Mr. Fata.
The answer in one word, absolutely. Not only will I actually vote for it, but I will be the one to make sure, if elected, that I will bring it forward to the Finance Committee. It will be public, so you will know that it was brought forward. And at the end of the day, we need 7 councillors to agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. We'll now move on to question number 7.
This question comes from the Chamber of Commerce. What issues do you see on the horizon that will impact your ward, and how do you see addressing them?
We'll begin with Mr. Celetti.
Well, the issues here that we're talking about, I imagine, would be Ward 5 issues would be infrastructure. 2003, when I ran the council, my remarks were that our infrastructure was crumbling under our feet. And here we are in 2014, and guess what? Infrastructure is still crumbling under our feet. Where water mains are breaking, roads are terrible. There's a few roads that have been done in Ward 5 when I was on there in council, but since then, many have deteriorated, not even fit for a bicycle. And it's a shame that you actually take taxes from people and then don't give them the service back, which would be a better road, better infrastructure, sidewalks, curbs, and make our ward a little bit more attractive. But right now, as it stands, it's not very good.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. Mr. Fata.
As usual, Mr. Celetti does a lot of rhetoric, but very little in terms of dealing with the actual subject. I've been in conversation with Don Elliott from engineering these past several days. We're dealing with First Avenue, we're dealing with Second Avenue. We have to get it on the 5-year capital works project. These are things that we have to do. These are the things that the 2 councillors working together will do. And there will be improvements to these roads, not simply by creating sort of an emotional stir-up. You have to deal with the process. And the process is there's taxes, there's issues of prioritizing. We got issues in Ward 5, but we are addressing them, and we will continue to address them in a very intelligent manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. Mr. Bruni.
Thank you. We need obviously stronger infrastructure, but it's not only in Ward 5, it's in every ward. But in Ward 5, it's stronger infrastructure. Our road improvements, we do need them. In 2006, 2nd Avenue will be completed. Franklin and Laura is on the radar. Ruth Street is on the radar. But there's other roads. There's First Avenue, there's Posabon, there's Batanti, there's Moss Road. Roads is almost our #1 priority right now, but our infrastructure is weak. Our city is over 100 years old. These roads need to be repaired, but there's over 150 roads in the city that would be classified as immediate repair. You cannot repair 150 roads. It's impossible. The tax will not handle it. So they do have a study every 2 years, and they evaluate every road in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. Next from our panel, we'll hear question number 8.
This question comes from Algoma University. Algoma University has recently seen a significant rise in international students. What will you do to help make Sault Ste. Marie a welcoming and inclusive community for international workers and students?
Thank you. We'll begin with Mr. Fata.
I think everything starts with just walking outside City Hall, and you see the flags that are flying out there. There's approximately 32 flags out there right now, indicating that we've had students and we've had people moving to Sault Ste. Marie. We got to make Sault Ste. Marie continue to be very welcoming. We're a multicultural city. I mean, we came here, our family came here in the 50s. It was a huge adjustment, but you struggle. For our young students, it is vitally important that they have housing. Housing is extremely important, and we have to address that issue as best we can. It's great what's happening right now with the former Windsor Hotel. There's residency there, and maybe continued growth in the downtown area would be a good thing. But the thing about this city, it is a very welcoming city, and I think that's vital in terms of attracting foreign students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. Mr. Bruni.
Thank you. We must be a very diverse and welcoming community. We must respect and understand the different cultures that enter our city. We continue celebrating our different cultures, and that's very, very important. We have 2 programs in place called Discover the Sioux. It provides information necessary for newcomers to navigate their way around the community and features links to the services needed to truly make the Sault Ste. Marie feel like home. And the other program it's called New to the Sioux. It's a program through Sioux Community Career Center. It supports successful integration of newcomers into the community. It's a team of dynamic, qualified settlement counselors who can help with all their settlement needs. And that's very, very important. With these new students coming in, we have to welcome them. We are a friendly city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. Mr. Celetti.
Thank you. With SR Steel and the Indian population and foreign people coming here to Sault Ste. Marie, I welcome them with open arms. I love this community, and the best part about it is that we're diverse enough that we have multicultural. We're diversified enough that they can have probably a cultural event down at the tent every day of the year. And also what makes us different too from the rest of the world is that the alternative energy that we're supporting here right now with the wind and solar and other things coming online, that makes us #1 in North America. And with the other expertise coming in from other countries, makes us that much better. So yes, I do welcome them. I welcome the students. I welcome the workers. I love them all. Bring them in.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. We'll now hear question number 9 from our panel.
This question comes from the audience. What solutions can you offer for the garbage that continues to be thrown on private land, in ravines, and in places like the Boardwalk and Hub Trail?
Thank you. We'll begin with Mr. Bruni.
Well, I guess we need police services to monitor. It's a very difficult thing to take control of. One thing is maybe possibility. You might be able to increase the fines to make it more expense if people are caught throwing garbage into bushes and ravines, etc. I think it's a responsibility of the individual to take care of their own garbage, and if they do throw it out, then there should be a heavy fine, and hopefully that would eliminate it. But I don't think you're going to be able to eliminate it totally. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. Mr. Celetti.
Thank you. That's a good question. For the simple reason is garbage is always an issue. Recycling is another issue. But on the boardwalk and on the Hub Trail, those are our gems in Sault Ste. Marie. We do have a garbage man that does garbage pickup down on the on the boardwalk for sure. I've seen them do it many times. And we have, Board of Works do put people out there picking up this garbage. And I'm sure that they're out there on the hub trail as well. I know you're going to get garbage, but the fact of the matter is no one's throwing their garbage bags out there. And if they are, well, yeah, certainly. They should be mindful of the other people that like to use these places in Sault Ste. Marie. So I think engaging police forces to go and chase people down with throwing a cup or something out, I think is a little excessive myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. Mr. Fata.
Thank you. I had a conversation just last night with a Mr. Foltz. He has property on the top end of Old Goulet Bay Road. There's people up there, there's people going on up there every weekend. They're partying it up. There's garbage everywhere. We got to start with signs. Signs have got to be placed in locations where it's continually being abused. Another thing that has to be done, and I think Prince Township has it right, they increased their fine to $1,500, and they found a marked improvement in the number of people that are doing this. $1,500, somebody will think twice. I see down by the hub trail and down by the boardwalk, my wife gets really upset with me because she sees me picking up garbage. I cannot imagine how people can be irresponsible when they're standing 10 feet away from a garbage can and they're throwing it on the boardwalk. I think fines have to be done. I think we have to work closely with police services.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. We'll now hear from our panel with question number 10.
This question comes from the Chamber of Commerce. The Port of Algoma was recently announced to be the subject of environmental assessment. If the port is approved and is constructed, it could be reasonably expected to cause an increase in traffic and heavy truck traffic in your wards. What will your position be if asked to support the port?
Thank you. We'll begin with Mr. Celetti.
Well, in Ward 5, we have a truck route, and it's handling the truck traffic very well. The Port of Algoma is a super, as someone had mentioned, it's a game changer in Sault Ste. Marie. We're going to be getting a lot of business with this port, and I'm hoping that it creates the number of jobs that they say it's going to create. I heard there's around 1,800, and I hope it's all local people, and a chance for our youth to jump on board with this port being installed and working with SR Steel on that. As far as the truck route goes, second line, Core Road, I know I do get a few transports down Farewell Terrace, but they generally follow the truck road as it's outlined today. Maybe it might have to be changed a little or tweaked, and that's as far as I could see it going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. Mr. Fata.
Very good question. This is certainly very exciting news, but it's certainly also very early in the process. We will certainly keep our fingers crossed that things will move well and the funding will be there. We've been dealing with issues as far as truck routes and as far as speed and irresponsibility as far as some of the drivers that are out there driving these transports. We recently were able to change Core Road from a Class A to Class B, and that was through efforts with my counselor, Marchy Bruni. We found that changes do occur. The studies have to be done in order to see whether the traffic is warranted, whether we continue with the truck route designation. Carmen's Way has to be used. Carmen's Way is certainly vitally important. Now, with the new Bridge Plaza coming on board in the foreseeable future, there's going to be ways that we can reroute the trucks. At the same time, though, what has to be understood is that trucks who drive these trucks have to be responsible.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. Mr. Bruni.
Thank you. Very exciting news with the deep water port. This can create at least 2,000 jobs, and definitely would keep our young people here in the Soo. But if this does follow through, obviously the truck route in the Soo would have to change. But we do have the main arteries. We have Carmen's Way, we have Second Line, we have People's Road. But that's where it's going to be difficult. Is People's Road, Third Line East, and Fourth Line. There'll be a lot of traffic there, so there has to be another route that the truckers would have to take, especially going north. So it is good news, but I'm sure there will be problems that's going to arise from the good news story. But I think that's something that city staff will have to handle. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. I'll now invite the panel to pose question number 11.
This question comes from the Algoma University. Impaired driving and speeding is a problem in Sault Ste. Marie. What will you do to make the city streets safer for drivers and pedestrians?
Thank you. We'll begin with Mr. Fata.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this is an ongoing problem. Again, I hate to be general when I say this, but we've got a fair number of irresponsible drivers in Sault Ste. Marie. We're dealing with speed all the time. We're dealing with it on Third Line now with the extension. We deal with it on People's Road, Henrietta, even Farewell. We've got issues where people take irresponsible behavior behind the wheel of a car. And police services has been on board. We just had a town hall meeting October 1st. We had Staff Sergeant Davey there. We talked about what they do. They've got to be on top of this. Personally, zero tolerance is the way to start. Once people start getting heavy fines, they start realizing, maybe I'll think twice before I drive fast. Rossmore Road keeps being a problem. I don't understand how people can do that. And they seem to leave the house 5 minutes later than they should, and then they create a possible disaster down the road.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. Mr. Bruni.
Would I be able to have the question read, please?
Certainly. Eva, would you please read the question again?
Impaired driving and speeding is a problem in Sault Ste. Marie. What will you do to make the city streets safer for drivers and pedestrians?
Well, definitely what I would do is basically contact police services. I mean, they are the law. Coming from a family that I have a son that's an OPP officer, a brother that's an OPP officer, it is close to me. And I understand that speeders, there should be heavy fines. Drinking and driving, we all know that cannot happen. And fines should occur. This is more of a police services matter. I mean, what can I do? I mean, we report them. We ask the police services to put up the digital signs for the speeders to make sure they're aware of what speed that they're going to. I mean, those are calls that we can place. But there's not much else that, as a counselor, that I can't stop the drivers from driving the way they are. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. Mr. Celetti.
Again, this is a area where the driver is responsible. If you're going to drink and drive, leave your car at wherever you're drinking and take a cab. We have police services here that provide ride checks, and hopefully, and I'm saying they do a lot of ride checks, but hopefully they get the people that are impaired on the road off the road. And I know in our family, we've lost people in our family through drunk driving, and it's a horrible thing, and I wouldn't want anybody to ever have to go through that. So drinking and driving, it doesn't mix, bad mix. Police are doing the best they can, and I say the rest is up to the person that's driving and with keys in hand.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. We'll now hear again from our panel with question number 12.
This question comes from the audience. How important do you think it is for the two councillors of the same ward to work well together for the benefit of their constituents?
Thank you. We'll begin with Mr. Bruni.
I think it's very, very important that two councillors work well together. My slogan is always working together. It's important that two councillors can sit down, discuss issues. We're not going to agree on everything, but it's very important at least you have respect for each other. And also, with a two-councillor system, for instance, you can back each other up. If one decides to take a vacation, the other councillor is there. I think it's important to sit down with your counterpart to discuss your agenda items. We, presently with Councillor Fata, we'll call each other on Sunday nights. We'll go over the agenda. Is there any questions? I think it's important. You got to work together. There can't be any friction among each other. It's not a competition. We're out there to serve the people. And I think presently we have that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. Mr. Celetti.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I have no problem working with anybody. Mr. Fata, Mr. Bruni, put the Queen of England right there, and I have no problem working with these people. They're good people. Their intentions are excellent. They have good ideas, and if I'm there, I have no problem working with anyone. I love them all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. Mr. Fata.
Thank you very much. Very good question. These past 4 years have been exceptional. They've been very, very, very cooperative, very respectful. I worked with Mr. Celetti the previous term. We had an issue there where there was a resolution that he brought forward. The vote went something like 10-2. I was one of the 10. There was two of us that voted against. Sorry, there was two of us that voted against the resolution. I think that's something where councillors can agree to disagree normally. Mr. Celetti did not see it that way. Out here in the parking lot, he thought that it was okay to put his fist in my face after we didn't go along to make it unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. Next, we'll hear from the panel, question number 13.
This question comes from the Chamber of Commerce. What do you plan to do to ensure safe, reliable, and competitively priced electricity in our city?
We'll begin answers to question 13 with Mr. Celetti.
Can you repeat that one more time, please?
Eva, would you mind repeating the question, please?
I'm just shocked at what I heard before.
What do you plan to do to ensure safe, reliable, and competitively priced electricity in our city?
Well, you should be asking these two guys over here. They sit on the PUC. Myself, I was on the PUC, and we always had the lowest rates, second lowest rates in Ontario, next to Ottawa, because they generate their own power. Right now, I couldn't currently tell you exactly how low our rates are compared to other centers, but if you feel a third hand in your pocket, you know the rates come from, the increased rates on the PUC come from these two individuals who sit at the PUC and raise the rates. So I'll leave it to them.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. Mr. Fata.
Obviously, the facts weren't presented in that bit of comments that we just heard. We are still in the lowest 25% in the province. Our rates are still quite reasonable. We do have to keep working, though. Being on the board was something that I chose to do approximately 2 years ago. No one else wanted to be on the board. I chose to be on that board. Mr. Celetti was also on the board in the early 2000s, but he decided that he did not want to be on the board, and as one of the board members told me, it was too much work, too much preparation. So be careful when you start criticizing. Sometimes it will come back to bite you. We do need responsible people on that board. We have responsible people on that board. We need to, my purpose on being on that board is to represent the city and the taxpayers of Sault Ste. Marie. I'm there. I made the hard choice. I stayed on that board.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. Mr. Bruni.
Thank you very much. I do sit on the PUC board. I'm not embarrassed. I think as a councillor, you have to step up to the plate. And there are boards and committees, and there was an opening there. I'm not a chemical engineer or anything, but at least I will attend the meetings. What can we do? We have to work with the PUC. They have a budget. Their price is fixed. Their price is fixed by the provincial government. But PUC has other initiatives. They have the methane collection from the landfill site. PUC is looking at a feasibility to use the gas to generate 1.6 megawatts of electricity. There's other avenues that the PUC can look at. As board member, I highly recommend that the next council will put in place minimum of 6 councillors to sit on the board. It's very, very important. We are a shareholder, and why it didn't happen before is beyond me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. Let's go back to our panel for question number 14.
This question comes from Algoma University. Where do you think the city's budget ought to be trimmed or redirected? Do you think taxpayer dollars are being wasted anywhere?
Thank you. We begin with Mr. Fata.
Thank you very much. One thing that I will say on this topic is simple. We got to have a finance committee that is meeting, in my opinion, on a monthly basis. We have to address issues month by month and not wait till budget time in February, March. We have good staff, good department heads that are addressing issues that are involving cost-cutting measures. We have people in place that are doing that. But we got to have more of a hands-on situation here. I think it's important that the Finance Committee takes the bull by the horns and make sure that we are dealing with this on a month-to-month basis. We need input from the public. I'm constantly talking to the people out there. We're always having discussions about these types of topics. It's an endless conversation. It has to be done regularly. It can't just be done at budget time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. Mr. Bruni.
I would like the question reread, please.
Carter, would you mind reading the question one more time, please?
Sorry.
Where do you think the city's budget ought to be trimmed or redirected? Do you think taxpayer dollars are being wasted anywhere?
Well, I think it's very, very important to always review the budget. Department heads will do a presentation at council meeting to go over the budget. Councilors are aware of each department's budget. Each department is run like a business. Each year, we always ask the departments for a return. Public Works returned over $1 million last year, but this year, I don't expect that. I sit on the Finance Committee. We have 3 to 4 public consultations every year before budget. We ask for the public's input, which is very, very important. People say we don't want our services reduced. When you don't get your services reduced, what are we going to do? Where can we cut? It's up to council to study the budget. And when you study the budget, you ask questions. You ask the department heads. You have to put the effort in to review your budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. Mr. Celetti.
Thank you very much. So it makes me question is, who's actually running the show over here? Is it your staff running the show, is staff running council, or is council running staff? Telling staff what to do. I take the Board of Works, just one little speck in the whole big picture. Board of Works, duplication, triple, quadruple of services. They'll drive over 4 potholes on the street, and yet there's 15 potholes down the other end of the street, but they still have to fill out a work order to go and fill in those other 15. So they have to do duplication of services. And every time they do that, it's costing you money. And everything that's going on in this room here tonight, as they're talking, they're telling you, it's your money they're spending. It's taxpayers' dollars, not their dollars. It's your dollars. So what you have to be mindful of is how we can be careful handling your money. And when these people are wasting money on duplication of services, I question that.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. Let's go back to our panel for question number 15.
This question comes from the Chamber of Commerce. How will you help to reduce red tape issues for businesses?
We begin with Mr. Bruni.
How do we handle red tape? Red tape for businesses. Well, first of all, we need to have an open door. Our city staff is doing a great job, but when new businesses are coming into town, and they need a rezoning application, we have to follow through. We have to help them out. We have to see where we can improve for these businesses to come to Sault Ste. Marie. I think that's very, very important. And I think city staff is doing that. They're being proactive. They're consulting with the taxpayers. That's very, very important. And I think if we continue doing this, the developer at the hospital said, Peterborough and Sault Ste. Marie were in 2 different classes. Sault Ste. Marie provided the best service for him, and now he's developing 30-some condos. He enjoys doing business here in Sault Ste. Marie because city staff is helping him, and that's what we need. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. Mr. Celetti.
Thank you. Again, we have to lean on staff again. The whole fact of the matter is the red tape is so thick that people trying to even start an automotive dealership having a heck of a lot of time, a hard time getting their dealership off the ground because of the red tape at City Hall. And it begs the question, are we open for business? Is Sault Ste. Marie really open for business? When they stick all this red tape on and people trying to get in town, then they get this red tape and go, well, why would I want to go through all this? And they leave. So that actually tells me that we're not open for business. We're closed. And when you get rid of the red tape and give some incentive for people to be here and businesses to be here, then I could say we're open for business. But right now, as I see it, we're not.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. Mr. Fata.
Thank you. We've got the Economic Development Corporation. They are there to make sure that we make this city as attractive as possible. We have to make sure that we got property that's zoned, ready to use, accessible land. We've got business incubators that are now being set up downtown. This is something that will help small businesses. I think the days when we're going to attract a vehicle plant are not there realistically. We have to look for the employers that are up to 50 employees. There's been some success. There's got to be more, but we have to put pressure on the EDC. The Innovation Center is certainly doing some great stuff. Taxes got to be lower. There's got to be tax incentives. We got to attract people here. We need people. We have to have a migration of people here to do those jobs. There's issues right now with the OLG, things that are positive. I think we're going to see some good things happening. I want to be optimistic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. We'll hear from our panel again with question number 16.
This question comes from Algoma University. The city is rapidly aging. What will you do to improve the life of seniors in Sault Ste. Marie?
Thank you. We'll begin with Mr. Celetti.
Thank you for the question. Yes, we have an aging community here in Sault Ste. Marie, and there's many facilities here that our seniors can attend to. Like on Bay Street, we have the seniors building, and they gather there many, many times a day. Carpet bowling and teas and the things that seniors do that they like to do and relaxing things. There's this whole area is actually more geared towards an aging community. Don't like to say that, but because I like to see the youth here, and there's nothing more than I'd like to see is our youth staying here in Sault Ste. Marie. And then we won't be having people comparing us to an Elliott Lake or something like this. I don't want that to happen. I want us to be vibrant, and I want us to be moving along for all ages. So that's what I say to that. I think the seniors deserve all the best in their years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. Mr. Fata.
Thank you very much. Very good question. We have a lot of seniors, a lot of widows, widowers, a lot of people that are on fixed incomes in the Ward 5 area. It's a topic that comes up every day. We got to make taxes have to be kept as low as possible. Affordable housing is important. We have, for example, in the last couple of years, we had 11 senior units built over on Farewell Terrace. They're all occupied. There's more of that will be going forward. Developers have to have the incentive to build more affordable housing so that seniors, if they are going to eventually leave their home, they need something that is affordable. The rents in the city, I mean, it's 1% vacancy. That's one of the problems. You know, supply and demand just deals with that, and unfortunately, the rates could be lower. But with more units, it's going to be more attractive for seniors to eventually leave their home.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. Mr. Bruni.
Thank you very much. Number one is we have to minimize the tax increases for our seniors. We don't want our seniors to move out of their homes. We want them in their homes. That's where they enjoy their life. So we need minimized tax increases, affordable living, and then we need services for seniors. Many seniors cannot drive, so we need to improve our transit. Not that our transit has taken a step backwards. Our transit system has improved. We have the Parabus, very, very important. Seniors don't want to stay in their homes for 24 hours a day. They want to go shopping. They want to go to grocery shopping. They want to go to a movie, retail stores. So we need to improve the transit. The Red Cross, the Canadian Red Cross, the social services, we need increased funding for them. For instance, if you want your grass cut at a reduced rate, your driveway plowed with snow, your house cleaned. We need services, so we need a little bit more funding to help out our seniors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. I'll now invite our panel to ask question number 17. This will be the last question of the evening. After candidates have all had a chance to answer it, we'll move into closing remarks.
This question also comes from the Algoma University. What can be done to increase affordable housing?
Thank you. We'll begin with Mr. Fata.
Thank you very much. Again, this topic is vital. It is absolutely vital. We've got to have our developers on board. We got to have the provincial government, the federal government on board. This is something that has to be addressed to make it affordable housing. It also has to be realistic for the developers who are going to build those units. Now, we've had, just like I mentioned earlier, the 11 units over on Farewell Terrace that received funding through the DSAP. We have to continue to really encourage our development. We have some great developers locally, but there's got to be incentives for them to also build, because to build a unit, if a unit costs $150,000, they have to charge X amount of dollars to make it realistic, and they won't build them. They are building them right now. There are units going up right now throughout the city. We have to continue to encourage that. But we need all three levels of government. We got representatives from both levels here. We should be able to get good results. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. Mr. Bruni.
Thank you. We need to increase our affordable housing. Projects should be working with our city staff. Council is responsible for the zoning, and I think that's important that everybody understands that. We need to utilize our vacant schools. There's one area that we have many vacant schools that can be converted. We need to contact the provincial and the federal government. Grant money has been reduced. We have to work with the provincial and the federal government. And this council, this present council, has a very good dialogue with the provincial government, especially with the ministers. We had the ministers' caucus here. We met with every minister and we discussed our concerns. So I think that's very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. Mr. Celetti.
Yes, affordable housing in Sault Ste. Marie, you definitely need three levels of government here, fed, province, and the municipal. We also are lacking in long-term care as well for our seniors that need that long-term care. But we also need, if we want to have the affordable housing, we have to have developers and investors to come to Sault Ste. Marie, or the ones that are here now, to invest more into our city. It's not just City Hall doing all this stuff. This is a very complex situation that is going to take a lot of people, a lot of effort from the different levels of government to make this happen.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. This concludes the question and answer portion of this evening's forum, and we now move to closing statements. Closing statements will be presented by the candidates in reverse order to the opening statements. So we begin with Mr. Bruni.
Thank you. Thanks again to the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce, along with Local 2, Shaw TV, Algoma University, for hosting this forum. Residents of Ward 5, I'm looking for your support to continue my duties as your ward councillor. I will continue to work with the mayor, councillors, and city staff to help our city move in the right direction. I will continue to work hard with all Ward 5 residents to ensure your issues and concerns are forcefully represented at City Hall. If I have the privilege of being your ward councillor, I promise I will continue to listen to your voice and take action. I'm a man of integrity, honesty, commitment, and hard work. In the words of Henry Ford, coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. Let me work for you on October 27th. Vote Marchy Bruni. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Fata.
Thank you. Thank you very much to all. My summary to you, the residents of Ward 5, is a simple one. You have two cooperative, respectful, and responsible ward councillors. Now, in Ward 5, hasn't had this type of mutual respect on City Council since the days of Art Galatzi and Walter Chisholm. Art Galatzi has called me and said recently, "Frank, you're doing a good job. Keep it up and you'll be just fine. Call me anytime." The city is moving in a positive direction, but we are not going to be complacent. We are not going to be complacent. Our seniors are trying to stay in their homes. We must keep their taxes down. Our middle class can be greater than it is. We must build on this important demographics through economic development. Our youth are Sault Ste. Marie's lifeline to our future. We cannot take them for granted. I'm sure not. They need for us to care and perform so that good-paying jobs are here for them in Sault Ste. Marie now and when they graduate. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Fata. Our final closing statement comes from Mr. Celetti.
Thank you very much to the voters of Ward 5, past, present, and future. I'm indebted to you, and I want to make it a better place. I want to make Ward 5 a better place. I started this with a question: are we better off today than we were 4 years ago? And I know that these two councillors sitting beside me voted for tax increases in the last 8 years, 7 out of 8. Aside from Mr. Bruni, who was there only 4 years, so we'll give him 4. But Mr. Fata, 7 out of 8. Why didn't they vote for make it an 8? Because this year they had no budget increase. So not only is his hand in your pocket at the PUC, but his hand's in your pocket right here at City Hall, raising your taxes every time a budget come along, and it's got to stop. And I'm the guy that you need at City Hall, and I will be there for you at all times, and I want to save you money. Thank you. Vote Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Celetti. On behalf of the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce, Algoma University, Shaw TV, and Local 2, I would like to thank our candidates for taking part in this evening's forum. I'll invite the audience to give them a round of applause for all of our candidates. Thank you to all of you who attended our session in council chambers this evening and to our viewing audience. Thank you to those tuning into Shaw TV and Local 2. We extend our thanks to Shaw TV and Local 2 and the news media for their support. We remind and encourage all of you to get out and vote on October 27th. Please stay tuned for our next session with candidates in Ward 6. Thank you and good evening.